1812 hero William Henry Harrison was nominated as the presidential candidate for the Whig Party on December 8, 1839, on the final day of the party's convention, which was held for 4 days in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The other candidates running for the nomination were Congressman Henry Clay, who thought he was a shoo-in, and another war hero, Winfield Scott, that made the race an even tighter one that took 5 voting rounds to declare an official winner. Henry Clay, who led the first 4 rounds of voting, was playing cards with Scott miles away in New York City at the Astor Hotel along with 2 other Whig Party members. When news reached the men about the winner of the presidential nominee, Clay became so enraged that he attacked Scott and punched him in the old battle wound while blaming the war hero for robbing him of his victory and had to be dragged out of the hotel. Needing a Southerner to balance out the ticket, the Whig Party chose former governor of Virginia and Senator John Tyler as Harrison's vice president running mate. Several days later, Harrison found out that not only was he nominated by the Whig Party and won, he accepted the nomination on December 19th and became the oldest person to run for office. Due to his age and lack of political knowledge, Harrison only wanted to serve 1 term if elected. He had no political platform, views, or plans for the country except to defeat the Democratic Party's incumbent, Martin Van Buren, who was Andrew Jackson's personal choice to continue his Democratic Party platform, which divided the country at the time. The biggest was the Panic of 1837, which caused the country to fall into a major depression due to Jackson's war with the Second Bank of the United States and rising unemployment. Harrison's apolitical approach and views earned him the nickname General Mum by the press. The New York Herald, which had a Democratic Party editorial leaning, said about Harrison, "Mrs. Harrison of Ohio is undoubtedly a very excellent matron for her time, but if we must take a woman president, let's have youth and beauty, and not age and imbecility." The Baltimore Republican said, "Give him a barrel of hard cider and settle a pension of $2,000 a year on him, and my word for it, he will sit the remainder of his days in his log cabin by the side of a sea coal fire and study moral philosophy." The mocking of Harrison in the press gave the Whig Party the idea to not only embrace the idea of the old war hero as a cider drinker living in a log cabin, but made it part of his persona. They even had their own theme song, which was called Tippecanoe and Tyler Too, which helped launch the log cabin campaign. One of the Whig Party supporters, Congressman Charles Ogle, portrayed Van Buren as a snoot, saying, "If he's vain enough to spend his money in the purchase of rubies for his neck, diamond rings for his fingers, Russell laces for his breast, filet gloves for his hands, and frappé de broderie de Boukham al Nancy handkerchiefs for his pocket, if he chooses to lay out hundreds of dollars in supplying his toilet with double extract of Queen Victoria, eau de cologne, Corinthian oil of cream, if I say Martin Van Buren sees fit to spend his cash in buying these and other perfumes and cosmetics for his toilet, it can constitute no valid reason for charging the farmers, laborers, and mechanics of this country with bills for hemming his dish rags, for his lardering needles, liquor stands, and foreign-cut wine coolers." The Democratic Party held this convention for 2 days in Baltimore, Maryland, which ended on May 6, 1840. The party voted unanimously to support Van Buren for re-election, but couldn't decide on a vice presidential running mate. Unlike Harrison's campaign, which had no political platform, the Democrats vowed to continue to let the states regulate themselves when it came to taxes and slavery. The Democratic Convention, however, was overshadowed by a large Whig Party presence in the city, led by Henry Clay, who gave speeches around town, with fellow Whig Daniel Webster. Harrison's popularity soared, and his campaign was like a runaway freight train, despite attempts by the Democratic Party to paint him as an abolitionist and a doddering, sick old man. Around this time, Harrison began to make speeches and toured the country. He made what was recorded to be the first presidential nominee speech, on June 13th, 1840, to a small group of supporters at the site of the Battle of Fort Meigs, in which he was a part of. He closed his speech by saying, "See that the government does not acquire too much power. Keep check upon your rulers. Do this, and liberty is safe." But his tour was cut short due to the death of his son and problems with his age. Henry Clay, along with Daniel Webster, continued to tour the country and stump for William Harrison. They helped build log cabins and drank hard cider with the voters. The Democratic Party's puppet master, Andrew Jackson, gave speeches around his home state of Tennessee to support Martin Van Buren. He wrote, "It is my serious belief that if General Harrison should be elected president, it will tend to be the destruction of our glorious Union and Republican systems." The 1840 U.S. presidential election took place from October 31st through December 2nd. Because there was no official election day at the time, when the votes were tallied, William Harrison won the election with nearly 80% of the electoral votes and 53% of the popular vote. Harrison, by the time he was sworn in, was 68 years old, but his age, along with the malingering ailment, would eventually have a huge impact on his presidential term.